Is the title clickbaity enough for you guys? Yeah. Uh, Sorry. This is going to be a lot more informal than our usual videos. Like I mentioned, this is a quote-unquote debunk of the latest video by Hail Zeon. Again, one of my favorite Dragon Ball YouTubers. I guess excluding us, because we kind of talk about Dragon Ball sometimes. Like I said, a big point of this channel is that we do a little bit of everything. I don't want to get trapped in like one genre. So while we've done a lot of Dragon Ball videos lately, and we'll do more in the future, we're not a Dragon Ball channel. Just want to get that out there. Anyway, so this is a video response. Yeah, the video response is more appropriate than debunk, aimed at Hail Zeon. This is why I'm thinking, like I said, the title should be clickbaity. I'm pretty sure I'm going to title the video, "Hey, Mr. Zeon, Goku is a good father in GT." Now, that's the clickbaitiest title I could think of, and I'm going to explain myself, of course. So if you'll bear with me, I'll explain and use in true fashion to our channel. I'll explain with facts and evidence from the series itself as to why Son Goku in Dragon Ball GT is the best version of Goku in terms of fatherhood / being a father. And I think this is really self-evident and very obvious if you watch all 4 series. And even if you count like the movies or video games, he still comes out on top as the best dad by far. So we need to take a look at this and examine, Dragon Ball GT to explain why he's the best father. And this is a really easy thing for me to do because I joined Tumblr because why not? And on Tumblr, I made my page basically like kind of what I'm trying to do with this channel here, where it's like it's me, but it's me expressing my opinions and the opinions I feel aren't really expressed all that often, such as Dragon Ball GT being the 3rd best Dragon Ball series, 4th being Super, of course. And essentially, what I was doing was going character by character because I believe, and I feel like this is objective fact, that Dragon Ball GT has the most developed versions of all the characters that exist in the Dragon Ball franchise. And the only series that comes close to this would be Super and Z. And I say both because Super regresses some characters and advances some others, and Z was just continuing with the progression of others, while some just stop progressing in general. So it's kind of a tie. Anyway, I argue that this is the most developed version of Son Goku, and I think that's because Dragon Ball GT does a good job of looking at the character of Son Goku, and what they do is they deconstruct the character. They take a look at all of his flaws and they bring them to the forefront, and if you watch the series, he overcomes each and every flaw someone could come up with Goku's character over time. Now that might be a whole other video onto itself, so I'll get into that later. But I'll focus on only one attribute which they take shots at and then improve, which is Goku being a father. Now, I agree with Hail Zeon's premise of, Goku being not an abusive father, but he's not a good father either. And this is basically the stance I've always taken, so I'll play his clip right now so you guys can get an idea of how Hail Zeon feels about it, and I'll explain, why Dragon Ball GT completely changes the facts which he presents.
People who take this topic a little too seriously, and this topic has kind of come back into discussion recently with the Dragon Ball Super manga, where Vegeta just has this kind of a throwaway line of, "You're a brilliant fighter, but you're a horrible father." And no, I mean, I have to really agree with Vegeta on this. Goku's a bad dad. He isn't an abusive dad. He isn't leaving his kids with any kind of mental scarring. Well, maybe outside of, throwing Gohan to cell, like when he was 11 years old or 9 years old. But beyond that, Goku, like I said, he's not like a horribly abusive father, but he is an absentee father. He is never actually there to provide for his children, to teach them things, to be an actual dad. And if you're not going to be a dad, then yeah, you are a bad dad.
So, like I said, or really like he said, Goku isn't a terrible father in the sense that he doesn't harm his children, other than, of course, the cell thing, and that his kids turn out fine, and they both love their father, and they know that their father loves him. So, in essence, like Hail Zeon said, Goku does the bare minimum requirements for being a father, but that's what prevents him from being a good father. Now I'm going to explain what Dragon Ball GT does to change this fact about the character. Now, I'm going to be including the end of Z as part of his character, because the end of Z has basically been retconned out of Dragon Ball Super, so I think it's fair grabs for GT. So, if you follow the premise of the end of Z, there have been 10 years of peace, which means all Goku's been doing is training at home with his family. And in GT and the end of Z, we never see Goku like go to King Kai's planet just to train. So that means he's probably been training at home the entire time, the entire 10-year gap of peace. So if you look at this from a perspective of like how much time he spends with his family, so originally he spent the first 5 years of Gohan's, or first 4 years of Gohan's life with him, and then he briefly spent time with him on Namek, and then he spent 3 years training with him, and then he bounces out because he's dead. Now, cut to Goten, who's 7 years old when Goku first meets him. This is out in the first 7 years of his life, but he spends the next 10 with him during the 10 years of peace. So, cut to end of Z, Goten is 17 years old, and Goku has been there for the majority of his life now. And at this point, Goku's been there for what I would consider the most important years for a father to be there, the developmental years. Now, this may be like a personal thing, but in my own life, my father like ran out on me, quote unquote, when I was like 7 years old or whatever. So, for me, I feel like that time and onward, when you're like going through puberty and stuff, those are the times where like you need a father or need a father figure. And those were the times when Goku was there for Goten. He was there for the entire 10 years of Goten going through puberty, Goten growing up, Goten becoming a man, Goten. So all the important moments of Goten's life for that 10 years of he's developing into a grown man, Goku would have been there. Now it's true, Goku leaves his family to go and train with Oob at the end of Z. But I don't think that detracts from my statement. What is Goku leaving behind, really? When Goku leaves, he leaves Goten, who is only a year away from being an adult, and who he's already taught all that he can, and he tells Goten to train so Goten can be strong. So, he's raised Goten to essentially adulthood, instilled in him lessons and values of the Sun family, which is to be strong but to be kind. Gohan is already a full-fledged adult who's moved out and is married to Videl and has a granddaughter named Anne. A granddaughter who Goku is very fond of and who's very fond of him, I may add. So, at the end of Z, Goku has accomplished his job as a father with Goten. He even stayed on a few years with Gohan, but again, Gohan turned out fine. Goten's turned out fine. And his granddaughter is being raised by a productive family because Goku, to a degree, did his job with Gohan. So when he leaves, he's leaving behind his two grown children. And I think that you can't really fault him for that, because while it's true it would be nice if Goku was there, he's kind of done his job in my mind. He's raised Goten to the best of his ability, and now he's going to take some me time. Now, it's also important to note that Goku mentions that he will be coming to visit the family, which I think is probably more for Chi-Chi than anyone, because Chi-Chi is his wife. And I'm not here to defend him being a poor husband or not. The premise is purely for fathers, so I'm not really considering, his abandonment of Chi-Chi for this. So do with that what you will. But in essence, what happens here is that Goku promises to come visit Chi-Chi and Goten at home while he's training Oob. And we know he does this to some degree because at the end of Dragon Ball GT, Goten mentions when Goku leaves with Shenron that he's sure his dad will be back because this is what Goku does. And the last time he did this would have to be the end of Z. So obviously he did come back while training with Oob like he promised. And so I think that shows true growth for the character. Like, he's not constantly bouncing out and doing other stuff. He stayed with Goten and raised him, and so I feel like he should get points for that. Moving on from that point, after the end of Z, we cut to Dragon Ball GT, which is where the original premise of this video begins. Now, I said that in Dragon Ball GT, they take a look at his character flaws and throw them to the forefront. And I think this is no more obvious than with the character of Pan. Now, to anyone who hasn't watched Dragon Ball GT subbed, you probably can't stand Pan because her voice actress is terrible in the English dub. But in the Japanese sub, the story is completely different. So Pan's character in Dragon Ball GT goes through a clear arc. In the beginning, she's a spoiled brat, more akin to Kid Trunks from Dragon Ball Z than any member of the Son family. But by working with Goku and Trunks in space, she learns to become more humble, and she becomes far more accepting of her grandfather, someone who she treats as a joke when she first meets him. And this is an important dichotomy, because we have Goku, who's been presented as an irresponsible father, someone with very little paternal instincts, paired with someone who doesn't view him as a paternal figure despite the fact that he is her grandfather, and has much more experience, strength, and skill than she does. And so, this positioning, this juxtaposition between two characters, works really well as the two grow and change throughout the entirety of Dragon Ball GT. And this can be evident throughout all the arcs. As I mentioned, in the Black Star Dragon Ball Saga, we're introduced to Pan, and Pan is very proud of her strength, she's very arrogant, she's very even prideful. She does not resemble any member of the Son family in any capacity that one could think of. But by working with Goku and seeing her grandfather in action, she becomes far more humble. She learns to depend upon him. She learns to care for him in a greater capacity like she did when she was younger. And if you look at Dragon Ball GT the way I do, which is a granddaughter-grandfather story where the two rekindle their, I guess you could say, rekindle their relationship, become familiar with one another again, and really, renew their love for one another. I wish I could find better words to phrase this, but essentially, the story we go on in Dragon Ball GT has Pan paired with Goku and Trunks, and she doesn't respect Goku at all in the beginning, but through seeing him in action, seeing his strength, his determination, his will, Pan learns to depend upon Goku, and she learns to trust him greatly. And this pays off in the Baby Saga. Now, by the time the Baby Saga is concluded, Pan and Goku have spent a year together, and in that year, Goku's regrown his connection with Pan. He's learned to care for her, he's learned what it means to protect her, and through that bond, the two have grown incredibly close and understand each other very well. This is why Goku is so enraged when Pan is attacked by Gohan and Goten during the Baby Saga, because that's his granddaughter. He's learned to love and care for being attacked. And the real culmination of these things happens when he becomes a Super Saiyan 4. Now, this moment is one of the best in Dragon Ball GT, because he gains his power not through rage, but through reasoning. The loving memory of being a family with Pan and the others is what brings Goku's power full circle and allows him to achieve the ultimate level in Saiyajin power. And it's that moment that illustrates the point I'm trying to make here best. In Dragon Ball GT, they address the fact that Goku is an irresponsible father figure who is often absent from their lives. Using Pan as an example, Pan is someone who remembers Goku from when she was age 4, and because she's not seen her grandfather in around 5 years, because she hasn't seen her grandfather in around 5 years, the result of this is that Pan has little to no respect for Goku, as one would when a father figure is absent. And so, putting the two together forces Goku to confront his own failures and the fact that he was not a very good grandfather. And by doing this, they force him to become a better one, by him working with Pan, learning her interests, and respecting her. He knows that Pan likes to fight, and the two take solace in that fact. It's not like with Gohan, where he didn't understand that Gohan wasn't interested in fighting. nor does he ever push Pan into any positions where she would be in jeopardy. He takes on the bulk of the work and makes sure to send her away when she's not needed for a fight. And I think that this all culminates in the fact that Goku in Dragon Ball GT, he's a very good father and a very good grandfather. He takes good care of Goten and Gohan in that series, even though they're both fully grown men. He still spends time with them. He was going to go into space with Goten. He was going to go to space with Gohan. He spends the entirety of the Super 17 saga, the year gap between the Baby and 17 saga. He spends that time with Pan and Goten and Chi-Chi. So I think it's very clear that they addressed the fact that Goku was a poor father figure, and they managed to fix those things by having Goku be more than just be there occasionally. He's there all the time. Not only is he there, but he's supportive, he's helpful. And so that's the thing that came to mind when I was watching Zeon's video. I said, I've always agreed that Goku isn't the best father, but I think that in Dragon Ball GT he manages to turn things around and become a good father. And that's really the point I want to make with this video. So I think in Dragon Ball GT, Goku goes through the necessary steps to become a good father. And before this gets too long, I'll address my final point, which is the end of Dragon Ball GT, where he leaves again. Now, you could knock this against him as points for him being a poor father and poor grandfather, because after he and Pan had spent so much time reconnecting, Goku leaves. But I think it's important to keep in mind that this goes with the overall theme of GT, which is atonement, which I will get into at a later date. But Goku has to atone for the use of the Dragon Balls. He has to go with Shinra, especially if you buy into the theory that he's dead at the time. He really has no other choice. So I don't think you can knock it against him as a grandfather for leaving Pan in that instance. And I think really what you should take away from that is what Pan takes away from that experience. She keeps Goku's gi. 100 years later, she gives it to Goku Jr. Goku had such a profound impact on the way she lived her life that she named her great-great-great-great-great-grandson after him. And I just think it's very evident that they had a special relationship, and this is due to the fact that Goku was able to gain some paternal instincts between Z and GT. So there you guys have it. That's my take on whether or not Son Goku is a bad father. My take on it is he's a kind of bad one in Z, and I think he's a good one in GT. And in Super, he's roaming on bad again. So I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Zeon, if you see this, I hope I brought up some decent points. Remember to like, comment if you agree with me or you want to debate. I'm down. Share this if you want other people to see it. And subscribe if you're new. Podcast at 100 subscribers. Can't wait to do that. And I really like to thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys later.